Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to, of course, the Friday review. Today I am reviewing, today I am reviewing the newest album, of course, from new wave or British heavy metal legends, Raven. It's, of course, this Metal City right here, and of course it's their 14th studio album. This album, of course, was released through, of course, Steamhammer and SPV Records on September 18th of this year. And, of course, I'm finally now getting to it because I had received it this week. I was almost tempted to listen to it, of course, the Amazon Prime or Amazon Music app. But that was only in case if they didn't really get to ship it out. But they did, and it came in at least in time before, of course, Friday, or at least until this day. Of course, I'm recording. I record all of these at least on Thursday, so I'm at least was glad that this was able to at least make it at least in time, so I can be able to listen to it, and I did. So before I really get into any of the album, do I really need to get into any backstory? Because at this point, at least all the people that are subscribed to me, I think at this point should be so familiar with Raven. Everybody should be familiar. I think, and also everybody should at least have a copy of some of their albums, you know, especially the classics. Rock Until You Drop, Wiped Out, All For One. Even also other albums such as Life's a Bitch and Nothing Exceeds Excess. And of course some of their EPs, again, like Crash Bang Wallop and the Mad EP, and of course Heads Up. I think everybody should at least have some of those in their discography. I mean, okay, I don't have really Heads Up in my collection, but I think for those you probably should at least have some of their classic albums, even some of the more recent albums, especially the album previous to this one, Extermination, or even the Party Killers release, the Covers album. Everybody should at least have at least some of their albums in their discography, or at least in their collection, so on. At least everybody should. And of course, the history with Raven, you know, the classic lineup. Everybody knows, again, the lineup of Mark and John Gallagher, and of course Rob Wacko Hunter, in which that lasts at least from Rock Until You Drop up until, of course, 1987's Life's a Bitch, which that was the final album on, of course, on Atlantic, and everybody also know, at least should be familiar with their Atlantic era period, which was not a bad period in the band, at least in the band time, but it's not very fun to look back on. I mean, the only real stinker within that era was The Pack Is Back. And let's just leave it there, okay? Let's not talk anything else about it. Let's not mention any more about The Pack Is Back, but just that, okay? Let's just mention the title, all right? That's the only stinker, at least in their period, and it's one that the band, even themselves, don't finally look back on, and for reasons. And of course, again, just there's at least some good stuff in there, and of course, Nothing Exceeds Excess was the first album, of course, for drummer Joe Hasselvander, who, of course, was from, again, bands like Pentagram and Armageddon. That was his debut, who, of course, had replaced Rob Wacko Hunter, who, of course, was going on to also get for family reasons, and, of course, even went on to produce several bands, Killjoy, being the one that comes to mind. So there's that was, again, a new chapter in the band, and for that lasted at least up until 2015's Extermination. And of course, after that, well, this is where we then finally will then lead into some of the history, at least prior, or at least all the stuff that ends up leading in to, of course, the recording of this album. Because after Extermination, Joe Hasselvander will eventually end up leaving the band sometime, I would say, maybe, was it 2017 or early 2018, for, of course, health reasons. So with there, that was leaving Raven to, of course, get a new drummer. And that's when, of course, former, or at least at this point still actually member of Fear Factory, their drummer, Mike Heller comes into the fold. He comes into at least the fold here, and he becomes Raven's new drummer. And of course, he debuted, of course, last year's live album, which was Screaming Murder, Death from Above, live in Aalborg, I think it says, at least on the Metal Archives here. So that was his debut, and this will be the debut studio album for, of course, Mike Heller. So there we go. I think that in many ways that finally leaves all the little bit of the history I can get into. All the little history that's probably still kind of brief. I felt like that was still brief, but it still took up at least a little bit of a chunk of at least the beginning here. Still for at least especially for those who aren't familiar with this band that are tuning in. Definitely, I just want to at least bring some of those at least up to speed. But still, for those who are familiar with Raven, I probably didn't need to. But still, without further ado, let's finally then, again, let's just lead into, of course, Metal City, the 14th studio album from Raven. Let's lead into, of course, that album right now. So, Metal City, the 14th studio album from Raven here. Now, this album, of course, consists of 10 tracks. Also, I should mention, if you end up owning the Japanese pressing, it would then list another track on there, which would make it to at least about 11 minutes long. But I'm not going to base this review off the Japanese edition because I haven't even heard the bonus track, which was Rock the House. So I can't even find that track on YouTube. So I can't really comment on that song. So I'm just going to be focusing on just the regular just the regular edition of this album, which again, it just consists of 10 songs. So, these 10 songs are, of course, The Power, Top of the Mountain, which of course was one of the first singles for this album, Human Race, Metal City, which would be the title track for this album, and it was also the second single of this album. And of course, Battle Scarred, Cybertron, Motorheadin', Not So Easy, Break, and When Worlds Collide. So, and with all these songs here, it all clocks in at 38 minutes and 51 seconds. So, finally, my thoughts. Now, given, I will definitely say right off the bat, when I first put this disc, prior to this, one of my friends on Facebook, I'm not going to name any names, but if you are one of those, or at least if you did decide to listen to this, maybe you probably will know who I'm talking about, and you probably would know that if I might be talking about you. Still, one of my friends, at least on Facebook, for sure, was hyping the hell out of this album. And so it made me very, very much anxious to listen to this album when I first finally got it and I popped it into my CD player. I will definitely tell you, at first listen, besides a couple of songs, I was very much taken back a little bit. And at times, I didn't know what to completely think. I almost was feeling underwhelmed at times. And I didn't know, and I kind of figured out why. I mean, I'll get off the bat. It all has to do with, of course, with new drummer Mike Heller. He is a vastly different drummer. His styling and so on is very different to, of course, Joe Hasselvander and at times Rob Wacko Hunter, at least of the two drummers that Raven has had over the years. He is vastly different. I mean, I was familiar with a lot of Fear Factory stuff, and the last album that he was on, which would be the last Fear Factory album. Right now, I can't name the name right now, but still, it's like his drumming is very well heard on this. It's felt on this album. He is definitely, it's objectively, he is 10 times the drummer that Joe Hasselvander is. I'll definitely say that he is much more talented in some ways, just because of he's much different. I don't want to knock any of their drummers down. I don't want to knock down Joe Hasselvander. I don't want to knock down Rob Wacko Hunter. But when trying to compare to at least with Mike Heller, Mike Heller is a lot more of a technical drummer, and he is definitely has felt through most of this album. However, That is one of the main reasons that really kind of threw me off quite a bit, is again with some of the blast beats that he'll add into a lot of it. And the thing is, and now leads in, this is one fast and energetic record. I mean, I've been, and the thing is, I've been so familiar with Extermination that this album right here was like literally fucking warp speed. It just literally, or I guess also to make a Spaceballs reference, ludicrous speed. This is insanely fast. It literally, and I mean, it did help Raven quite a bit because of, I mean, they did say that when, prior to at least coming up with all this material, they were just gonna at least play how they normally do. But with him, they ended up, apparently, they did feed off a lot of his energy. They did feed off a lot of, Mike Heller's energy for quite a bit, and it made them feel young again. And made them play again, and you do get that. It is felt on this. The band probably hasn't sounded this energetic and this fast in a long time. They really are playing like they are brand spanking new. So, and I know I just said I felt almost underwhelmed at first listen because of this. But again, when I start listening to it the second time and the third time, it really just started to grow on me to where I'm really saying this is probably one of Raven's strongest albums in a long time. This is by far one of Raven's strongest sounds, is because of they're feeding off of Mike Heller's his rhythm and feel, and very much he is feeding off of his energy. They're playing faster than they probably had never been faster before. They're just playing at his speed. And it's almost like basically a legendary old school wrestler wrestling a younger guy. For example, Sting versus AJ Styles, for an example. It's like that. He's literally, I mean, for at least comparisons, it just feels like that. They're just again feeding off the young guy's energy and strength and so on. And that's kind of the best analogy I can use for Raven on this album. And it really does kind of exceed a lot of the songs here. And again, it just sounds youthful once again. And that's definitely one of the highest points for this album. As far as songs, for the best examples to feel a lot of this is actually on songs such as Top of the Mountain, Human Race, Cybertron, and of course, Break. Oh my god, these songs for sure you are definitely have that energy, and Break at times is almost at times very breaking it towards thrash metal. They definitely have a lot of that feel to it, and it's just definitely really cool and so on. But you still get some of that classic Raven sound. I mean, even Top of the Mountain is definitely a classic Raven. Metal City, the title track here, is classic Raven. Battle Scarred is fucking classic Raven. Not So Easy is classic Raven. Also, I should mention the track Motorhead is, of course, is a tribute to, of course, Lemmy of Motorhead. And again, in the booklet, since I should also kind of definitely talk about this, or at least comment on this, is the artwork. It is very much has that comic book style, inspiration, and the booklet, it's got that comic book feel to it. And then there, when it came to, of course, the Motorhead part of it, where the lyrics are, it's of course, and again, it's very much apparent that this is a tribute to Lemmy, because of Lemmy is in basically the shape of like a cloud, and basically all the three of the members here are riding motorcycles that have the snaggletooth on there. So it's really made apparent that this is a tribute to, of course, Motorhead, and of course Raven. In that same category, they were in the same place again as Motorhead, so on. But definitely great, just a great track all around. But again, there's just, I wouldn't say there's not really a bad song on here. I also definitely also comment on this is at the very last song, which is also the longest song on the album. And of course, Raven are not, they are not strangers to, of course, long songs. When Worlds Collide is basically a 6-minute, 15-minute track, but it's slow and it's heavy. I feel this is kind of a callback to, of course, Life's a Bitch, especially the track that comes to mind is Juggernaut. It comes really, it just has that same feel. I just feel like it's a callback to that album. Of course, Break is like another callback to, of course, some of the thrashier tracks off of like Life's a Bitch or Nothing Exceeds like Excess. It's all callbacks to most of this album feels like at times callbacks to, of course, some of those classic material. But again, with Mike Hiller, it's just updated. Another big again point for this album is, of course, is that John Gallagher. Oh my God. I mean, I thought he was doing a lot of his screams and so on as well on Extermination, but here he's really doing a lot of them. That's the thing. The band just sounds like they're young again. It literally sounds like that John Gallagher is like literally been overcome by the spirit of his 1981 self. It's just that kind of feel. It's just so great. It's like, but again, only John Gallagher and Rob Halford, I guess, are basically the two that are able to, are definitely one of those that just seem to really have a way of pushing themselves to want to reach that high again. And John Gallagher, he just sounds like he's in tip-top shape on this album. He just sounds great on here. For his age, he sounds fantastic. Just every bit of the band here, they just sound like they're at 100% here. They're just playing like, again, like they are just, like that they just drink from the, from the Holy Grail or the Fountain of Youth. Just fucking fantastic. So there, I don't want to keep this review on for any longer, but this is a fantastic record from Raven. And so when it comes to my rating, you should guess by now what my rating be. I am giving this a flat fucking, or just a straight up 100%. Obviously, the band were playing at fucking 100% on this album. They were playing at 100%. And again, for the age that they are in, it's really surprising that how the level of speed that they're playing on this album, it's just awe-inspiring that they were able to at least play at this energy. You would have thought that they probably would have been playing at this energy again. I mean, Raven was always an energetic band to begin with, but on this album, they're just playing at 10 times the speed than they were before. So it is great. It is absolutely amazing. Definitely, I think Mike Hiller is definitely I feel at this point, I think he's a great fit. I'm really curious on what Mike Hiller is going to be doing with Raven from here on out. I'm really curious on what some of the subsequent albums are going to feel like. Because this is, and I don't know whether or not if they can top this. I feel they can, but I'm giving it 100% anyways, just because of, for at least effort and so on this album. They really are playing, they really definitely brought in their A game with this album for sure. I know some people will probably say it's average and so on, but for me, I feel they're playing at this speed. I think it's very much impressive. So there you go. Definitely, since this album has been out since September 18th, what is your opinions on Metal City? I'm really curious about what all of you think. And so you can at least post your opinions in the comments section. But for those who haven't checked this album out, I recommend checking out the new Raven album. Definitely give this one a chance. I think that this is definitely a solid album from these guys, and definitely so far one of the best albums of this year. So with that, I hope y'all enjoyed. This is Thrash Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.